Have you ever wondered what happens when we forget the old ways? When progress sweeps away traditions that were never meant to be abandoned? Maya Chen stared at the inheritance documents spread across her kitchen table. 300 acres of rice paddies in rural California, passed down from her great-grandmother, whom she'd never met. The property had sat abandoned for 15 years, ever since the old woman died and Maya's family moved to the city. Now, at 28, Maya found herself the reluctant owner of farmland she'd never wanted. Her tech job in San Francisco paid well, but the mounting student loans and her mother's medical bills made the inheritance feel like a lifeline. The land was worth millions to developers. She drove out to the property on a fog-shrouded morning in late September. The fields stretched endlessly, choked with weeds and wild growth. Ancient irrigation channels carved the landscape like scars. The old farmhouse stood at the center, its windows dark and hollow. Inside, dust motes danced in shafts of sunlight. Maya found her great-grandmother's belongings exactly as she'd left them. Photographs of harvest festivals lined the mantelpiece. In one image, villagers in white robes surrounded a rice field, their hands raised toward the sky. A leather journal lay open on the kitchen counter, its pages yellowed with age. Maya's great-grandmother had written in careful English, "The spirits must be honored. The harvest debt must be paid. 3 days before the autumn moon, we give thanks. 3 days after, we ask permission. This cannot be forgotten." Maya laughed nervously. Superstitious nonsense from another generation. She photographed the journal pages for curiosity's sake, then called a real estate agent. That night, back in her San Francisco apartment, Maya dreamed of rice stalks swaying in windless air. She woke to the sound of rustling, like grain being poured into a bowl. Her apartment was silent. The real estate agent, Janet, met her at the property the next afternoon. They walked the perimeter, discussing development potential. Janet mentioned the land's history, how Maya's great-grandmother had been the last to maintain the old harvest traditions, how neighbors said strange things happened after she died. "What kind of strange things?" Maya asked. Janet shrugged. Crop failures on neighboring farms, equipment breaking down for no reason. Some folks claimed to see lights moving through the fields at night. Maya dismissed it as rural folklore. She signed the listing agreement that evening. Within a week, 3 developers had submitted offers. Maya celebrated with expensive wine, already planning how she'd pay off her debts and help her mother. The highest bidder wanted to close within 30 days, right after the autumn equinox. That's when the dreams intensified. Every night, Maya found herself walking through the rice fields. The stalks whispered in a language she didn't understand, but somehow comprehended. They spoke of debt, of obligation, of promises broken. She woke with dirt under her fingernails and the taste of grain husk in her mouth. Her phone buzzed constantly with unknown numbers. When she answered, she heard only the sound of wind through rice stalks. Her laptop screen flickered with images of the fields, even when she wasn't browsing anything related to the property. 2 weeks before closing, Maya's mother called from the hospital. Her condition had worsened suddenly. The doctors couldn't explain the rapid decline. Maya sat by her bedside, holding her mother's fevered hand. "The fields," her mother whispered. "Great-grandmother always said, the spirits remember everything." Maya drove to the property that night, desperate for answers. She brought her great-grandmother's journal, reading by flashlight in the abandoned farmhouse. The entries detailed decades of harvest rituals, offerings made to ensure good crops and family prosperity. The final entry, dated just before her great-grandmother's death, was different. "I am the last keeper. When I am gone, who will remember? Who will pay the debt? The spirits grow restless. They will not wait forever." Maya's flashlight died. In the darkness, she heard it. The sound of rice being harvested, invisible hands cutting stalks that no longer grew. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in seconds. Her breath came out in visible puffs. She ran to her car, hands shaking as she tried to start the engine. Through the windshield, she saw them, translucent figures moving through the fields, their arms raised in the same gesture from the old photographs. They turned toward her in unison, their faces hollow but expectant. The car wouldn't start. Maya fumbled for her phone, its screen providing the only light. The figures drifted closer, and she could hear their voices now, not speaking, but singing in that ancient language from her dreams. They wanted something from her, something her family had promised generations ago. She thought of her mother dying in the hospital, of the sudden illness that had no medical explanation. She thought of the neighbors' crop failures, the broken equipment, the lights in the fields, the harvest debt. With trembling fingers, Maya called the real estate agent. "I'm taking the property off the market," she said. The singing stopped. The figures paused in their approach. "I need to know about the harvest rituals," Maya continued. "I need to know what my great-grandmother used to do." The car engine turned over on the first try. Maya spent the next week researching, calling elderly neighbors who remembered her great-grandmother's practices. She learned about the offerings, rice wine poured on sacred ground, white flowers placed at the field center, prayers spoken in the old language. 3 days before the autumn moon, Maya performed the ritual exactly as described. She felt foolish, but her mother's condition had stabilized the moment she'd canceled the sale. As she poured the rice wine, the field seemed to exhale. The oppressive feeling that had haunted her for weeks lifted like fog burning off in morning sun. But as Maya drove home, she realized the true horror of her situation. She was bound now, keeper of an ancient contract she'd never agreed to sign. Every harvest season, for the rest of her life, she would return to honor the spirits. And someday, she would have to find someone to take her place. The rice fields remember everything, and they never forget a debt.